Hey there, my friends. Welcome back to the Mosaic. This is where we piece together life, business, and purpose, one intentional step at a time. Okay, so I am so grateful that you're here today because today's episode is a little bit of an extra close to my heart because I am sharing one of my recent travels to a small place called Simijaca in Colombia, and a place that really taught me so much about beauty, flexibility when it comes to what life throws at you, and above it all, really staying true to what truly matters most. So I told you in the last episode that I have had a couple of trips in the last 2 weeks, one of which was I spent what was meant to be, at first, a 2-week trip into a small town called Simijaca. And this town is nested in a valley between two mountains. Now, if you haven't listened to the episode about my background and go back and check it out, okay? I am coming from Turkey. I am very familiar with small villages. But this town was definitely something else that me, was a little bit shocked at first. Because even though there is poverty, it's visible in the outside looking in, right? When you look at the worn out buildings and there are roads filled with potholes and all that. But there is also an undeniable sense of peace and belonging and raw natural beauty in this place. And as I wandered through the town, as the days goes on, I really was starting to get struck by the contrast of the old structures with just roofs barely like holding it together to newer buildings that were kind of starting to pop up, and yet it still preserved the town's authenticity. And it somehow made me think, are we living life too complicated at times, right? Because I watched street dogs and cats roam freely. I met people in this town, although they didn't have much. They embraced life with open hearts and have this peace and happiness fill their hearts. I've had so many exotic foods, met this vibrant community spirit in this small town. And from outside, you could say they don't have much, but the way that nature framed every scene, it was like stepping into this beautiful and different world. And it was mesmerizing, to say the least. Now, we did have one day dedicated to climbing one of the mountains surrounding this small town, and eventually reaching a place that has the beautiful, amazing waterfall that is so surrounded by possibly Indian cemeteries. It was so magical and authentic and raw. But anyhow, I'm getting ahead of myself, right? I mean, so we're heading over to this mountain waterfall, which is like breathtaking, and the sheer of beauty of these cascading water. It was so overwhelming And that I mean, even heading into the waterfall, when I started to look at, came across this mountain stream, I just couldn't help but tears fall because in that moment, right? I live in a place where people pay exaggerant amounts of daily park entry fees just to see these man-made versions of what I was seeing. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I mean, I would still go to the parks. I would still go to the entertainments and all that. But even though in that moment, right, now that I am seeing this natural beauty in the most raw form, I realized, like, even though people here don't have much in terms of material things, they really have access to the most amazing natural beauty and this indescribable sense of family and belonging and nature and abundance, and they embrace that. They are happy, right? And let me tell you a little bit about one of the most transformational moments for me was when towards the end we ended up reaching the waterfall, and this was a time where we could get into the water. And yes, this is almost like taking that cold plunge. You need to remember, and this is January and the water is cold. So this is taking a cold plunge in a waterfall in the most natural form that you could ever encounter. And I have to say, I was hesitant at first, and I was not a believer in cold plunges. And I'm not saying that I'm going to have cold plunges every day. I'm not doing that now. But once I stepped into that icy water, okay, I felt this entire body awaken. I mean, the shock of the cold quickly turned into this like feeling of invigoration, right? I saw my skin flush red and warm, and I knew that I had just proven to myself that I could do hard things. Okay, so in fact, so on the way to this waterfall, we had to cross a log, okay, over this shallow section of the mountain waterfall. And at first, I was going to try to kind of walk through the mountain stream, like small water stream. But I decided, you know what? Maybe I just still keep my clothes dry. So I decided that I could just push myself through this log over this mountain stream. So I started out with crawling and terrified of falling down this log. So going to the waterfall, that was my experience passing this water stream. But so once I took the plunge, and I mean it pun intended, right? This cold plunge, on the way back from the waterfall, mountain fall, right? I made cross the log, mustering the courage to walk back confidently. I honestly didn't know where it came from. And thinking back, so that simple act, right? You know, from crawling to confidently walking the log over the mountain waterfall, right? Mustering that courage. I mean, really mirroring that lesson that sometimes the first step is the hardest. But once you conquer like your fears, it's almost like you find a new level of strength within you that you didn't even know existed, right? So That was a little bit of a um, discovery that I've had, right? Lessons learned. We will get to the lessons learned, and maybe I can list my lessons learned, and I've had 3 of them, and I will have some action items for you towards the end of this episode. But wrapping up my story of this trip, like as magical as my time in Simijaca was, life had other plans. I had an unexpected family emergency, which forced me to cut my trip a little bit short. And I had to fly back to Istanbul on the same day. And will have another episode to share the details of my trip to Turkey. And I'm still processing those emotions. But this experience really reaffirmed that crucial truth that I have been talking about throughout the podcast episode, that living your life based on your priorities and really staying flexible and being open to what life throws at you, right? Even things don't go as planned, trusting that what is meant to be will be, and it will unfold on its own time. So I'll get to the second part of the journey and my recent travels to Turkey and my takeaways from that trip in another episode. But let's start talking about the lessons and really wrapping up and summarizing this episode and maybe giving you some action items that you can think through this week on how you can apply and how you can do some things in your life and think through your life and how it applies to you. Okay. So first of all, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And we say that all the time. But even in places where material wealth is scarce, there is an abundance of natural beauty and community warmth and opportunities for deep connections waiting for us that we may not realize that it is there. So your action step from this episode that I want you to think about this week, I mean, take a walk outside or jot down 3 things that you find beautiful in your surroundings. And it doesn't have to be exaggerant, right? So it can be super simple. I want you to write things down and really think through the simple things that you have in your life that brings you joy and beauty and keeps that connection with others in your life, and write them down and be thankful and grateful for those things in your life. Okay. So that is the first takeaway for you that I want you to really embrace this week. And then second of all, I want you to think of new experiences that you can take on possibly, right? Whether it is taking a cold plunge or stepping into an unknown and trying new things. And it could be as simple as speaking up in a meeting. Okay. It could be saying what you really truly feel in a good way. You can say anything that you want to say to someone as long as it is respectful and honors their boundaries and honors your own boundaries, right? Speaking up, saying what's in your mind. And you never know how those little simple acts of courage and how they will transform you and your life, one little step at a time. So I want you to really this week to think about and challenge yourself to do one new activity, one new action, one new thought, even if it is scary a little bit. And doing that and reflecting on the courage or the bravery that it brings on and adds to your life. I want you to really embrace those new experiences this week, okay? Write it down and try it out. And then finally, my third takeaway for you for this episode is really prioritizing what truly matters. I mean, life is unpredictable. And just like I had to cut my trip short to take care of family, it really reminded me that our loved ones and inner peace is really what truly matters. So I want you to write down or reaffirm if you already have them. Look at them. If you already wrote it down, what are your top 3 priorities in life? And assess how your daily actions align with those priorities. Look at your schedule. Is it aligning and honoring your priorities in life? And if adjustments are needed, please to ensure that you're honoring them and making those adjustments slowly. I mean, it can be dramatically, but I mean, it doesn't have to be dramatic, right? You can do it as slow as you need to make your adjustments so you honor the priorities in your life. Okay, so let's wrap up this episode by going through some of the affirmations that I wrote down so that we can anchor the episode lessons to some thoughts that I want you to have this week. I honor my priorities and trust that my path unfolds as it should. I am brave. I try new experiences, and each challenge that I take on makes me stronger. I find beauty and inspiration in every moment, no matter where I am. I embrace change. I stay flexible. I know my true path is guided by what matters most in my life. I am grateful for the love of my family and the abundance of life around me. Okay, thank you so much for sharing this journey with me today. My trip to Simijaca taught me so much. And it's not just about this hidden gem in Colombia, but about the beauty of life and what it means to stay true to your priorities. Life will throw unexpected changes your way. But as long as you trust your path and remain flexible, you'll always find your way. Okay? Now, I did talk about the exciting offer that I have on my website in the last episode, but I will be talking about this till you sign up to get that freebie and to get my giveaway. Please head over to arzughazni.com and get that giveaway. I am giving an exclusive business building affirmations and customer journey workbook to help you start mapping out your path to success. So this is really my way of giving back to my community of dreamers and doers and the change makers. And that is you, okay? So please go, give me your email address and get those 4 days of affirmations in your inbox the next 4 days. And if this episode resonated with you, I want you to please subscribe to the podcast, share it with a friend. I want you to leave a comment about maybe how about this? Leave a comment about the moments that when you have embraced a change and took a bravery in your life and found an unexpected beauty and how it gave you even more courage to do bigger and better things. I would love to hear your stories. Please send them to me. Okay. And remember, my friends, life is really about honoring our priorities, trusting our journey, and really embracing every moment with gratitude. I love you. I believe in you. And I will see you in our next episode of the Mosaic. I am out now. Until next time.